We're just waiting on our guest. Live on Facebook. Paste. All right. Let's see, we're back. Karen. Karen, is that you? I think that's you. Awaken the light. Is that you? You're sideways.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was afraid that was going to happen.
It's all good. I'm going to go in and share it to the network real quick.
Okay, awesome.
And then we can get started.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Let's try this.
So it's what, 8 p.m. over there? 8:05?
Yeah, it should be around 8 o'clock.
So how's the weather over there in the Northeast?
Gorgeous.
Is it really?
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Not hot. Not hot, huh?
Well, it was. We had some really super hot days, but these last 2 days have been just beautiful. A lot of cool air came in.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little warm over here for a while, and then over the last week, it's been very cool.
Now you're in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is it very humid where you are?
No, I mean, I don't think it is. When there's no wind, it can be, but
yeah.
I grew up in South Texas and I spent a lot of time in Florida, and that's humidity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think I think most of the houses here don't even have air conditioning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I mean,
are you close to the water?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So a nice
Yeah,
natural.
I'm up on halfway up a mountain basically. So the breeze hits. Yeah. So it's cool.
Beautiful.
Oh my God. But when you have these energies coming down, you start getting hot from the inside out, like hot flashes.
It
doesn't matter, right? Don't you? It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter.
You do. And it's
right?
a very different kind of hot.
Yeah, it is. I'm getting it right now.
Yeah, very different.
We got
very different.
22 people in the house. Hello, everybody. These shows resonate. Please share so we can stay above the algorithms at Facebook, although we've been getting suppressed a lot. If you're getting kicked off, let me see if I'll have to repost it. If you're getting kicked off repeatedly, which has been going on for like the last almost 3 weeks, you can use the Zoom link. I just posted it. Okay. You can use the Zoom link and you can go into Zoom and you won't get kicked off. You just won't be able to really write anything. Well, you can comment in the Zoom room and I'll pull those up and read them as I can. So some new faces here. Thank you, Sue Fitz, again, for your continued love, support, and contributions, and everybody else that keeps us going by the seat of our pants every day. But we're okay with that as long as we get to show up for work. And somehow there's always a miracle.
Yes.
There is.
So since you said that, I have to show you a card that I pulled a little while ago. It says miracle.
That's it, though. I feel like the last 3 months I've gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
The same cycle, and it's like, okay, how are we gonna meet these bills or whatever, and somehow or another you just keep putting it out. That's what I've always heard. Just keep putting it out from the heart, and it'll take care of itself. This time I feel a little different. I feel like, okay, I'm actually not going to worry about it, which is weird. That's a
Yeah.
weird. That's a weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It is.
so how's it
Mhm.
been going for you? I want to talk about that.
Whew. Well, so it's, it's been interesting these last couple months. I was trying to think back, like when we connected last. It's been a couple months, and
Yeah.
oh man, a lot has changed. Some really, really good stuff, and some really, really just complete devastation. You
Yeah.
know, um, just with personal relationships and timeline collapses. It came very suddenly in April, and it directly impacted, our family. It's involving our daughter,
Oh, wow.
and very, very, very impactful. Very impactful. Uh, there was a lot of shadowing that came up, a lot of accountability.
Yeah.
But man, if I can tell you, like, so from my perspective, I can honestly say, like, I don't think I had ever really truly understood what it meant to experience a timeline collapse, and in the aftermath, it was like I suddenly had this awareness that that's what happened, that when, something that is going on that's not supportive of the whole unit, it eventually will just give way because there's nothing there to hold it. And when things are in the way of your highest good for everyone, it's like it literally falls like a building. It's just there's nothing there to hold it together. So that's what
Yeah.
we experienced in April.
Like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. We were just having this conversation a while ago between shows about, so like somebody, I think it was Sophie Gregory, she wrote a post which kind of, or a meme which kind of summarized it all, which was, she said something about, does anyone feel like you're standing between 3D and 5D, trying to ground into 5D? I'm like, that's it right there. So then you have, like you said, you got the whole, which might be your family or your little circle or your community. And there's something or someone, could even be yourself,
It
uh,
was
that's
absolutely.
not upholding the highest good, or really, let me put it a different way, that's not handling their shift. Okay. And so what ends up happening is it creates a disturbance in that
Mhm.
field. And let's say I'm in the field over here, I can start to engage that. I can start to interact with that, which is irrational, because
Mhm.
let's say the 5D is rational because I'm aware of it now and I see where it works and how it's worked. But then you get
Yes.
hit with this 3D stuff. And so you start to go engage it. You actually unground yourself. You actually pull yourself out of the 5D. And, love isn't always pretty. Uh, so
Mhm.
sometimes you've got to have conversations. And, I try to keep quiet, because I found that that's worked better for me as time's gone on. But sometimes you got to say something. But
Yeah.
it's a weird trip, to not know itself be true. That's
Yeah, it is. And there's something really to be said about all relationships, but especially one between a mother and a daughter.
yeah,
And there's a lot of reconciliation that needed to take place. And I can tell you firsthand, it was not one-sided. So there was a lot of accountability. There was a lot of, after the shakeup, and literally having this moment between us, which was, we can walk away from each other now, or we can both meet each other at a place where we need to fix this and we need to fix
yeah,
it now. It's like it was to me in those moments, Todd, it was like, this is it. It's like we can do it the easy way or we can do it the hard way.
yeah,
And so the grace of it is to see ourselves now, like 3 months out of it. And if I can tell you, our relationship is better, it's stronger. She's better for it. I'm better for it.
mm,
There was a lot of apologies. Like I said, there was a lot that I had to clean up on my end.
Yeah.
And I tell you, our children are our greatest teachers.
Yes.
So I'm so thankful for her for showing up the way that she did. I'm thankful to myself for showing up the way I did, because there was a lot of cleanup. And when we're trying to bring in these new creations and anchor them, we can't do it when we're still stuck in all this old residue and all this
No,
old stuff.
you
So
can't.
it's profound, profound. And it's just been a miracle. Let's use that word, I guess, for the night. A miracle to see where we all are right now, which is out of it and really rebuilding something far more beautiful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, because it's all an opportunity. It's
It
all an
really is.
opportunity. Yeah, and then you have that collaborative co-creation frequency, which sounds like what y'all did. And what is that? I mean, we can talk about fairy, and nothing against fairies, nothing against any of our universal family. But coming from our perspective, where we're down here, boots on the ground, thank you for all the messages and the channelings and the transmissions and downloads. But when it gets down to it, our real growth comes from just being direct with each other and honest.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
if I'm not comfortable and I walk into the room and put on a happy face and da 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 da, like we've always done, it's not going to serve us. It's going to create a disturbance in the field. And
Yeah.
we've got to be responsible for that. No, or I could walk in the room and say, you know what, Karen, I don't feel very good. I don't feel good. I'm uncomfortable. I screwed up, and I need to talk to you about it. Or
Exactly.
something happened between us and I don't want it to sit there and fester and build up. So I need to say something. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm wrong. It's not about that. There's
Yeah.
something about being transparent now.
100%.
Really
100%.
is. It
Yeah.
really is.
And it's so much more palpable too. It's like you can really, really see and feel when someone is being really authentic and when they're not.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It is what it is.
And then
And I love it because it really forces you out of your bullshit. It
well, it
forces you out
does.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And okay, so either we're all part or the victim of a high level program that's a mind game, called ascension and light body being coming into existence from the carbon body, and telepathy, you know, being or it's real. And if it's real, think about it. The intuition, the telepathy, what is that? Where did we come from, and evidently where are we headed to? What do we have available to us? Telepathy, where we don't even have to talk. So how can we serve that? How can we promote that? How can we add to the energy or accelerate it or expand it? But by being transparent,
Exactly.
being
Right.
transparent.
Right. And being willing to say something when you're uncomfortable. Yep. 100%. Yep.
Have you seen this series Outlander on Stars? A lot of
Can
people.
I tell you, I haven't. So many people are like,
I
Karen, you got to
know.
watch the show, but I
I don't
haven't.
watch. I do not watch programs.
Yeah.
And
I
and at the
there.
first of the month, Morgan's watched the first 2 seasons of it. I was going through 5 or 6 days of the whatever you call it. I don't know. It was at the Dark Night of the Soul, the Abyss, or whatever. The Opportunity. So
Yeah.
anyway, she figured this out years ago, where she'll be going through stuff and she'll actually watch movies to process it with ease and grace, right? And I thought, oh, well, I actually did that. So then I watched the third and fourth season with her, and then we went back to the first 2 seasons. We watched the first season, and it's a great method, by the way. But what I wanted to talk about was, so it has all these archetypes and all these different scenarios, metaphysical messages. I mean, it's just got everything. Like nothing's left out. It's really fascinating.
It's
But there
about
were
time travel too, right? It's
about time
that's right.
travel. It's about pure love, divine union. It's about just everything.
Wow.
So, and all the aspects of dark and light are in it. and they're also in it in a beautiful way. Like
Huh.
even the victimization part of it. I mean, there's just some kind of romantic poetry to it. You know, it's very well done. But what I was going to say is on regard to what we're talking about. So none of the episodes, I've probably seen 30, really affected me, except for one, and it was about two of the characters being accused of being witches, and they were going to be burned at the stake. Which, you know, I've had those memories years ago and stuff like that. And it wasn't that part of it that bothered me. What bothered me was the gang mentality, the gossip mongering, that the hearsay that became a force in itself that directly caused the death of people. It was just like the insanity of it. I thought, well, this is an extreme energetic example of you know, the mind getting carried away. Plus,
Absolutely.
and I thought, well, why is this bothering me so much? And I think that's what it is. It's like it doesn't really ever bother me that people talk, but it the injustice that can come from it is what bothers me, I guess. And that's what I was getting at. And for some reason, that resonated with me in this part of the transition where the transparency is so obviously beneficial to us.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting that you bring that up because, you know, I feel as, you know, as many of us are navigating and moving through all these different dimensions, that, you know, the spiritual holistic community is a very strong unit, but it's small,
Yeah.
right? It really is. And I feel like it's so important for all of us to be kind and to be understanding and compassionate towards one another, because there is, you know, certain energies come back in the spiral and we revisit them, right?
Yeah.
And we have to be so ultra mindful because we are all at different levels, all experiencing different things, and to be extremely mindful of one another and loving still, because just because we may not agree and we have a different perspective, it doesn't mean that that person is wrong. And you know, I sense it, you know, often on social media sometimes, where it's very subtle. But again, everything is there. It's all underwritten underneath the words.
There's nothing subtle anymore.
Exactly. The vibration is there. And I'm just one of those people that I believe we can say what it is that we need to say to one another with a heart of love and compassion. There is no need to get into that space of you're right and I'm wrong. My, you know, information that I'm sharing is better than the other. It's just different, and it's all real for some, right?
Yeah, you're right.
We
I
have
think
to love one another more so than ever now, which is why I love what you do, because you really offer that platform for people to express. And the people that are called to watch you, to tune in, will just be, and that's of such great value.
Yeah.
It's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think the thing about right and wrong, you've seen that playing out, especially over the last few months. You see these little cat fights and, you know, this and that. And that's not even relevant. What I was getting at is that so it's really interesting because we're moving past this judgment thing, right? Or in this judgment thing. And condemnation goes with that. You know, even though it's light condemnation or subtle or, you know, but it's still condemnation's condemnation, right? So it's almost like, okay, we have telepathy. We all still have shadow to discover and expand from. So it's almost like we can see each other's shadow.
Yes.
And in the old days, it was, hey, let me tell you what your shadow is. that's not cool anymore.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
if
not.
somebody comes to you and say, hey, I got a problem, I can't see it, can you help me? Is there anything you can tell me? That's one thing. But this whole
Mhm.
thing about, let me tell you what your shadow is, let me tell you what you're thinking, that's, to me, now, at this stage in the game, is a big red flag of, or a big, say, cry for help unconsciously, that there's something in them that's screaming to come out, and that
Mhm.
being projected somewhere else. But I
It
guess what I'm
is.
saying is unsolicited versus solicited help.
Yes.
I think that's part of this telepathy thing, is we actually can see things in each other, and where we were patterned and conditioned to point them out in the past,
Mhm.
can now
Yeah.
take a deep breath, and as so many of y'all have taught us, what's in it for me? What is it that, why am I seeing this? Why am I feeling this? Why did I want to point out their shadow? Why am I talking about their shadow? What is it I'm missing in myself? Uh,
Mhm.
you know,
Wow.
rather than get down and dirty with it. Well,
Wow, that's powerful, Todd.
because
Absolutely.
because the shadows are so prominent right now.
They really are.
It's like
They
what you
really
went
are.
through. They're so prominent, and that's not a bad thing. It's not making anyone stupid or a bad person. They're just screaming louder and louder now, because
Yep,
this is the big time now.
it
And
really is.
of course, from that big dark shadow comes a huge, gigantic shift. But
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing because there was some days, especially like around the eclipse time, if I tell you, it was like 1 minute I was like in this bliss, and then the next minute I had all this crap coming up, all these shadows, all this doubt, all this like old stuff. And I was like,
yeah.
it was really something. And, I'm grateful for it because it's teaching me a lot to just really be more accepting of myself, in those shadow points. We can get lost in wanting to spread all that light, but we got to get down and dirty sometimes.
I like this comment from Sasha Grace. She says, now it's like, let me tell you what my shadow is. as opposed as opposed to saying, let me tell you what your shadow is. I like that.
I love that you brought that up because literally right before I came upstairs to get ready for this, my husband and I had a little something there, and I had to apologize to him because
Yeah,
I kind of felt like, there was clearly I offered, something to him
yeah,
that perhaps wasn't my place to do so in that moment.
yeah,
So I kind of had to own a little space of like, I didn't mean to make you feel a certain way. I know I'm not responsible for how he feels,
yeah,
but you hit it right on the head. When you see someone's shadow, you see, where they're stuck a little bit, you don't always have to offer. And
yeah,
that's learning discernment,
yeah.
you know?
It's a little tricky in a
It is.
relation
It
like
really
that. Yeah,
is.
but yeah, you're right. Overall, yeah, and even in that, even in that situation,
Yeah,
I mean, and
absolutely.
I think that's another thing too. Is like, I'll just use myself as an example, but like Morgan, many times, obviously, especially in the early days, she saw shadow. I didn't know what the hell shadow was. I didn't know what projection was, but she wouldn't say anything. She would
Mm,
see it and wait for and have faith that I would work it out, you know.
wow.
And I think that's what we can do for each other. Is we can say, because we were talking these last couple of days, like everybody wants to fix something. She made this post. She made
Yeah.
this post and it said, I forget how she started it, but it wasn't dark. It was just going into that shadow of the human aspect and all those feelings and everything, and saying, but I'm okay, right?
Yeah, I
Like
saw it.
there, and
Mhm.
so one lady wrote me and said, I hope you're not the one that made Morgan upset, with a big exclamation point. And other people were like, somebody sent her a song, hope you feel better. But that's, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if the intentions are
Yeah,
perfect, whatever. But I'm just
absolutely.
saying, it's like the fix it mentality from the men's side, and the healing. I want to heal you from the women's side. And I guess what I'm saying is to allow people to
Yep.
understand that they're as perfect as you, and everyone else, and allow them the opportunity to heal thyself, through the
Yes.
opportunity to work it out on their own right. And she said that to me, and I've heard other people say that too, other practitioners. Why would I want to steal that from them? Why would I want to
Mm,
take that away from them? Why would I want to do that for them? Not that I really believe anyone can, but do it for someone else. But I mean, really, like everyone has the same infinite toolbox,
yeah,
and everybody can get
absolutely.
through it, I mean, so it's like give people
Absolutely.
the respect, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things, there are some days for me where it's easier than others, and it's one of those things that you have to
Yeah.
really be aware of yourself and be, just be really aware of the other person too,
Yeah, I
you know.
think that's it. It's
And it's
interesting.
it's it's letting go, right? It's just
Oh
letting
yeah.
them go and letting them do what they have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you love them anyway, no matter
absolutely.
what, right? You love them anyway, and you're just like, I love you, I mean,
Yeah.
like what could you, like this, this, that show I was telling you about, the last episode last night I watched at 1 o'clock in the morning. This guy went through hell. The hero went through hell. He was in prison. He got raped. I mean, all this stuff happened. And then he's with his divine partner, and he's like messed up. Like he doesn't even want her to touch him. Like he wants to die. He wants to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, I don't care what happened. I love you. I don't care." That's the kind of thing I think that these unions bring to the table that's actually available for everyone, and it's an energy just happens to be personified, or embodied, or materialized in not just romantic relations, but many other ones, you know,
Hmm.
including people with pets, what we might call a pet, which is really another sentient being. But I guess what I'm saying is, it's like, you know, uh, let everybody figure it out. They deserve that. You deserve that. I deserve it.
Yeah, that's right. God bless. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So a lot of people talked about the really July, all week long. People were saying, like, I want to go to sleep all the time. I haven't been feeling good. I mean, I know I had a really rough time the first 5 days of the month. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that was a masculine thing, but I don't know uh, exactly. How about your partner? Has he been going through anything? Have you guys? Uh,
So yeah, so he has a little bit, it's I think we're kind of in the same spot where it's, we have really good days and then we have, you know, other times when we're getting our asses kicked a little bit. For me personally, I can say last week was a really deep week for me. It was I had a couple days where it was like, all right, I'll close everything down. I'm done. Like you just go into that space and when I'm in it, I'm just like, God, this again, you know, you have to sit with all the different layers.
yeah,
But when that clearing comes, it's just like, okay, let's get up and let's do it, and it's wonderful. But so it was a little hairy, here and there. We've been letting go of more and more and making room for new stuff and you know just doing our thing.
yeah, yeah. And how do y'all have like a certain system you use when you go through stuff, or,
Hmm.
or do you just take time away, or?
For Matt and I, it really is about communication. Like he'll read. Matt is one to really kind of retreat a little bit, like when he needs
Yeah,
to just be in that space by himself.
yeah,
So we kind of have really learned to honor each other and kind of let it be, you know. But then there are times where we'll jump in the car and we go down to the water. And if I can tell you the number of times that we've been in a really difficult spot, whether it was just one of us or if it was both of us, and we're on the beach and we just kind of surrender to all of it, it's like we walk off that beach completely different people. And it opens up communication. I mean, it's the beautiful gift of the
yeah,
ocean,
yeah, yeah,
but it's so much more than that. It's like it's the willingness to just to do it together. it's the willingness to witness one another in all aspects of being, you
Yeah.
know, and trying not to judge each other. It's just, but we always, you know, for us, we kind of jump in the car and we just go. I think that's our best remedy for stuff, and we usually
Yeah.
end up at the beach. Yeah.
And yeah, we do that. We'll go to the beach.
Yeah, it's
You know,
remarkable. I love it.
during the more congruent times and the less congruent as well. Do you like in the less congruent times when you go down the beach? Do you even have conversations, or you just a lot of times we'll just sit there and just take it all in?
So we usually walk. We'll usually walk, and sometimes we'll walk in silence, and then usually when we get down to the conversations, we stop.
Yeah.
And we'll usually stand close to the water. We talk it out. Sometimes we just sit on the rocks and we talk it out. So it's never really like one way of doing it. It's just kind of
Yeah.
however we feel in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's always it always leaves us just feeling really restored,
And how
and
did your
reconnected.
yeah, of course. And how did your expo go? That was going to happen after we talked the last time.
So right, so the expo was absolutely just far more than anything we could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it was amazing. The participants were just spectacular. The people that came out in support was just incredible. I mean, it was all day, Todd, nonstop.
Wow.
People coming in. The love was just overflowing. It was so far more than what we thought it was going to be. Really, it was fantastic. It was beautiful.
Did you see anybody from any friends online that you hadn't met?
Say that again.
Did you meet anybody that from your online friendships? People that you might have known online that came.
And that we hadn't met in person yet?
Yeah.
No.
No.
No, it didn't. But that's okay. I mean, we have our next date set for October in Freehold, and that's already sold out.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And
Wow.
then we have a 3-day event that we're doing in March next year in Edison. So that one's going to be a little bit bigger at a convention center. And he was super excited about that.
Yeah, this is his that was his first one, right? The first one that you got.
First one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah,
so,
it was beautiful.
So have you had any standout experiences over the last few weeks? There has been a lot of people talking about different things. Of course, galactics at times, but the dolphins, whales, dragons have been big. I mean, have you had anything that stands out, or any theme that stands out, even in terms of a divine essence or messages, particular messages of what we're going through or what's happening?
Well, so for me, I do a lot of creative stuff. And so, believe it or not, for me, when I'm in that space of creation, I find like that's when most of the information for me comes through. I find like I'm tuned into music and I'm in this space of just receiving, like, a radio broadcast. And it's like, I just start drawing. And I've, over the last couple months, I've been doing like what's called Regenesis light codes. And there's star maps, there's cellular DNA connectors. And in the beginning, I recognized that it was really what I needed, in terms of what was going on, upgrades in my own body. As of late, it's been a lot more galactic, like starships are coming through in the drawings, and a lot of extraterrestrial intelligence, I feel anyway.
Yeah.
So, which, it just, I can't explain it other than it's just that feeling, that comes through. And I'm not sure if I had sent you one of the drawings. I wanted you to tune into it. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but
Let me look at it. Did you send it on the did you send it recently, or was it?
I think it was today at some point.
No, I didn't. I didn't. You might have sent it to Morgan. No, I didn't get it. I was going to ask you now because
so for me, when I tune in, believe it or not, the information comes through that creative channel to answer your question.
See, that's telepathy. I didn't even ask the question. I was in the process of asking. Well, and the reason I say that because like Morgan does mandalas, right?
Wow.
And so if things, she'll just start doing the mandalas.
Yeah.
Same thing as like watching the show, but it's a creative, like you said. So, and then there's some people, like Gayatri Singh does the dragons. I can't think of anyone else right now because I'm tired, but so when she does them, she's actually channeling, which I guess it's the same thing. So on one hand, creatively, this is how you process things because you said this is your upgrades in your body and such. And then on the other hand, there's also a creative channeling that's not words necessarily.
Exactly right. I don't know if I can. So this was the one I shared with you. So I'm going to try to do my best to share it. But this one I finished today and I thought it was just so this is galactic.
Oh, wait a minute. I did see those. Where did I see those?
I sent them on Messenger.
Keep going. That's all right.
So,
Let's see. Let me see.
It's kind of.
Yeah, that's trippy. Yeah, explain this to us. That's really trippy. Yeah.
So, and then these are the two that came up. I usually date them. So this was from July. This was a starship, right? And this particular expression in drawing was really profound because I had a lucid experience where I was walking. I think I was in front of my own house, and there was snow all on the ground. And I was drawn to look down on the ground, and there were all these incredible andaras coming out of the snow. And I remember just saying, I've never seen them in snow before. What does this mean? So I ended up grabbing out all these incredible andaras. I mean, huge pieces of andara. And in that moment, I took those stones, and the next thing I knew, Todd, I was like getting out of a car in this great big expanse. There was just open, beautiful sky. I don't know what happened to the andaras. It wasn't like I got out of the car with them, but I feel like the andaras brought me to this.
To where?
To like this open space.
Right.
And I started gazing at constellations, which oftentimes in the drawings that I do, I don't know if you can see that, but the constellations.
I've got it on the screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, there it is. So the constellations will come through. So in the experience, I was tuning into one of the constellations up in the sky, and I began to notice that it started to move. And I was like, well, that's interesting, right? And I kind of was communicating with it, like, show yourself. So it began moving closer. And I realized that what was started as a constellation became like almost like a crystallized ship. And this giant thing started to come out of down, right? And it looked like it was going to pass me. And I literally turned around and was like, don't leave, show yourself to me. And it literally moved back around and it landed like right on the ground. But as it came closer to me, obviously, it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And when it hit the ground, it looked like this giant crystal.
Is that what's in the middle of this circle right here? Or is that down here at the bottom?
So that's right. That's right in the center. And not that the crystal, so for me, when I look at this whole image, having had that experience, and then I kind of, sometimes I'm woken up in the middle of the night and I will start drawing these. My husband will tell you when it hits. And I have to literally stop what I'm doing because the vision comes and that's it. I know I have to get to work. So what, so for me, it's almost like the center core is like its power grid that's
Okay.
being powered by this crystal in the center.
Yeah.
And the very last piece that went in was that smaller starship inside. And for me, it's called Solaris Mothership.
Yeah.
So this is a galactic ship that for me, I feel like I have been detecting and communicating with for quite a little bit, but I wasn't ready to receive the information to create this, I believe, until I had that lucid experience, because that's what triggered this to come into form.
So with these geometries, I get what you're saying. I mean, like with this one here that we got up, like with the geometries, the crystals, the light language. Yeah, I mean, and God, there's more to it. I don't even know what words to use. Is there a specific message that you get from this, or is the message without words as you take the whole thing in?
So for me, when it's, I really go with the flow. I always start out, something will come to me, right? For this particular drawing, it was that center crystal. I could not get that image out of my mind. And it just appeared to me one day that I needed to draw that crystal. So when I drew that shape, everything else kind of moves in its own motion. I can't even really tell you how it comes together because it just does. But I have learned, I think I've been doing this probably for like the last year and a half.
Yeah.
It was after my trip to Sedona. And, I kind of, my inner voice and connection to source always reassures me to trust what's coming through. So when I work on these, I work through this lens of looking at each segment one at a time. And then I kind of bounce around. So that like this big outside form will take place and then everything else fills in.
Yeah.
For this one that you have up on the screen, which was the one I finished today.
Yeah, this one's wild.
So this is galactic trajectory. So I feel, so the messages, so for me, as the creative, I know that I am simply meant to deliver what comes through source, right? As it, excuse me, chooses to come through me. How it's deciphered and how it's integrated is unique and individual to everybody. So I have learned to just bring the information down and through.
Yeah.
And there are sometimes things that are revealed. I will tell you that I use like numerics are very important in these drawings.
I can see that, and I was actually squinting my eyes looking for numbers, but it is numeric, but there's no numbers, but it is numeric. Yeah.
It's the numerics are embedded in all the dots, all the lines, all the different things. And I feel, so the very strong presence for me has always been the rainbow ray, right? The prismatic ray, the Pleiadian, but really when I feel into the core of the energy for these types of drawings, they have always felt very prismatic, rainbow ray, and like a purity. It's a return to, it's like a restoration to distorted templates. It's kind of, so this particular piece coming to fruition today was just so extra special because I didn't know when I woke up this morning that today is a day that's, what is it, out of time, or there is no time or something, right?
Yeah, the day out of time. Yeah.
A day out of time. Thank you. And I love that as I was creating this, the guidance was very clear that it was a galactic trajectory, which, so for me to surmise this, is coordinates to navigate and move into this next state of galactic beingness.
Yeah.
And however that means to you. And um and that's it. I mean, that's not it. I don't mean to say it like that, but it's, it's one of those things. I feel like a lot of purity when I'm in the space of bringing these forward. And I use music all the time. It's like music for me becomes that wave that I ride.
Yeah.
It's like I get lost in the music. And when I do, it's when the data comes through.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that when you bring something like this in, when you bring them in the last year and a half, do you think just by putting them down on paper and drawing them out, that in itself somehow or another anchors it into the earth? Or is it something that would do better to be more mass distributed, that type of thing? I mean, is the energetics of it, is it done? I guess that's what I'm saying is, you feel like that's like part of your role?
So that's an interesting question, Todd. That's very interesting. I know for me, I feel like the energy lands here.
Yeah.
And I do know it's extremely important to share them. And, but what happens, and this is my part, what happens when I share them oftentimes in certain groups is, people will want to know, well, what is it and what does it do? And how do I connect with it? And it's quantum in that state, because what I receive from it could be very different from what you receive from it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like they are meant to be shared.
Yeah.
I certainly offer them, as prints, but I mean, people have responded in all different ways, to them. So it's, I feel like just in the sharing,
Yeah.
it lands and it goes where it needs to go.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think it's, I've always felt like whatever any of us receive is meant for us first. But then as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So I can see how, yeah, the same thing. You pull something down, you put it out, whoever needs it's gonna find it, that type of thing. Yeah. I was just curious. So make sure you put the links to, if people are interested. I don't remember these from before, and I do so many things. Maybe you showed me before, but these I
Yeah,
did.
no. Yeah.
Today I glanced at them, and they remind me of, sometimes I'll see light language on Morgan, on her back, particularly on her
On
back.
her back.
And at
Love that.
first it was the what do you call it? Well, the language, right? The written language.
Yeah.
Like you would see it, but then the last couple times there was, and I couldn't see it clearly, but there was kind of like a wheel kind of thing too. There was some type of like, and it looked to be like gears in a clock.
Yes.
But more like yours, where they weren't like fit right next to each other, where one turned the other. Literally, they were more spread apart. And and they weren't like complete circles all the time. You know what I mean? They were like what you had. They were like partially. And I just kind of remember that right now. I thought about it the other day, but yeah. So I wonder, that must be part, or some type of representation of, like, what did you say earlier? Pure codes as opposed to distorted.
Purity.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like that's where the numerics are very prominent. Like I literally count out each one as I lay them down. And I know that as I am doing that, I'm anchoring the energy of those numerics in each segment, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, that does make sense to me. Yeah, it's a new math, basically.
It is. And
it's
yeah, it is. It's like that.
I wonder too, that's probably why people have reported seeing like off-planet geometry, new sacred geometries, stuff like
I
that.
believe, yeah, I believe we perceive it all in such a different way, which is why I feel like, especially now, creativity is so important.
It really is.
So it's so important to express. I mean, I never thought I would express such creativity years ago.
Yeah,
Never. I wasn't tapped into it.
yeah.
So it's like whatever it is that makes you feel joyful and loving and open, do it, because it's going to reveal so many beautiful things about yourself,
Yeah,
about
it
your
really
inner.
is. Yeah, there's something about the creativity, something about it tied to the sacred sexuality, the heart, the throat. A lot of people think throat chakra expansion, and this is my opinion, is about the voice and resonance. I think that is, but I think it's also about just getting it out. So it's more of a metaphor,
Mhm.
to speak it out or to create it.
I could see that, yeah, and that validates itself through light language,
Yeah.
because human language has been built to keep us separated, and we have all these definitions and feelings and emotions behind human language that we speak to each other. But
Yeah.
the beauty of light language is that it speaks directly to the heart and to the soul. So you're bypassing all that nonsense, and it
Yes.
just becomes a frequency that you can feel and you can experience, and it's pure and it's whole.
Do
It's
you
not.
do you want to do any light language or any blessings or? Well, no. If
Ye-
there's anything else you want to do before we head out, just make sure you put the links in the comments so people can find you. But yeah, is there any other intel you might have, or anything you want to say, or blessings, or light language, or want to do a
No,
drawing and a
yeah,
dance?
it's funny. I almost brought my crystal bowl tonight to play a little bit.
We'll do it next time.
We'll do it next time. Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that.
Yeah,
But
because I didn't even know. I never even knew that you did light language. But now I can. Now that as I can, in retrospect, and I can think back to our interactions, I realize now you had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I remember that.
and it's interesting because people will, so sometimes when I do a hands-on healing practice, I'll begin speaking, right? And when I first started doing it, I kind of judged myself a little bit,
Yeah.
because I have two very special people in my life that do light language, and I know they had a direct impact in
Yeah.
lighting me up, right, in this different way that comes through written form. And so they perceive it as this group presence that comes in, right, and it's moving and channeling through them. Whereas for me, I kind of felt, I call it almost like it's a language that for me is a soul signature. So
Mm,
when I speak it,
yeah.
I feel like it's has already been within me, which
Yeah.
is neither here nor there, other
Yeah.
than from the place where I perceive it, and it in the beginning, it kind of had me doubt it a little bit. I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna,
Everything is
I
coming.
won't front about it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, am I making this stuff up?
Yes.
But because it felt so, it felt like me. It was just my expression, not using human language, but just something very different that felt from the heart,
Yeah. That soul signature says it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mhm.
just curious, one last thing. So what did Matt do the first time you spoke light language in front of him?
So believe it or not, the first time I ever had the courage, and I'm going to use that word, I ever had the courage was, when we were intimate one night, and we were just in that space, and I knew that he was open and
Yeah.
he wouldn't be freaked out by it. And it just kind of unfolded
Yeah.
very softly,
Yeah.
and it really created such a quantum field for
No,
us that night,
yeah, I can relate to this. Yeah.
It was very
No, there's
pure
something
and
about
very,
yeah.
beautiful.
And that's one of the things that I hadn't thought about that, but that's one of the real uh, nice early surprises as we dip our toe into the sacred sex is the light language. It's hot. It's much better than that old 3D stuff where you're
It
saying all
is.
this stupid stuff to each other, right? But
I-
yeah, it is
yeah.
powerful. It's really powerful because I remember when Morgan first shared it with me last summer. I was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I thought it was actually beautiful, incredible, and actually could feel it. But then I could actually understand a lot of what was being said. I was like, wow, this is really trippy.
Oh, wow, Todd, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was cool. Well, best to you and Matt. We'll get together again. You bring your crystal ball next time.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
guys,
so
when you
much.
have that event come up, let me know and we'll expand some awareness
Absolutely.
around it. And
Thank
best to
you.
you and your family, your kids, and all that. I'm glad everything's shifting and elevating for you. And you're beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Todd.
You take care. All right.
Thank you.
Tell Matt hello.
I will.